Hello everyone. Today's video is another Methylene Blue Q&A. I've accumulated another ton of questions about Methylene Blue, so I'm going to try to put a dent in a bunch of them here. As per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. And if at some point you wouldn't mind taking a quick moment to please like, share, subscribe, and or post a quick comment on the video, I'd really appreciate it. So thanks in advance for taking a second to do that. So just a couple of rapid fire questions here about, is it safe or contraindicated to take methylene blue with certain agents? Of course, I'm not giving any advice on that, but just speaking about this academically, or my understanding of these questions. So can methylene blue be taken with cannabis? Not aware of any negative interactions there. For folks that are kind of new to this topic, methylene blue is something we have to be careful with any medication or supplement that increases serotonin, because methylene blue can ultimately lead to the inhibition of serotonin breakdown. So if there's a drug or supplement that's boosting up serotonin, and then the person is taking methylene blue and they keep taking that serotonin boosting drug or supplement on a regular basis, then the serotonin levels could build up over time because the inhibition is being inhibited, and you're going to wind up with too much serotonin, also known as serotonin syndrome, which is really, really not good. Very serious condition. Seems that it's very challenging to induce serotonin syndrome with oral dosing of methylene blue, but it is still something we need to be aware of. So as a general rule in my mind, drugs or supplements that do not increase serotonin are, as a general rule, okay with methylene blue, but that's not necessarily a hard and fast rule across the board. We should always talk to our healthcare providers before starting things like this, I think. We also have to be a bit cautious with high blood pressure as well, because methylene blue can also increase blood pressure mildly in some individuals, and that's in particular folks who are eating high tyramine containing foods, which can increase the levels of norepinephrine in the body, and that is ultimately something that can increase blood pressure and potentially cause a hypertensive crisis. So we have to be a bit careful with that, but outside of that, generally doesn't seem to interact with a lot of stuff. So methylene blue with cannabis, not aware of any interactions there that are to be avoided. There's a question here, can you take methylene blue with Wellbutrin? And so that would be one where I would, that is on paper contraindicated with methylene blue, because Wellbutrin will boost up serotonin levels. Now, as I've said in other videos, I do have some patients who are taking supplements or drugs that boost up their serotonin levels, and we do sometimes work with very low, with low dose, very gradual dosing methylene blue in some instances. So I'm not saying it's an absolute contraindication, but it's definitely one where one should work with their healthcare provider and make sure their healthcare provider is comfortable working with methylene blue before kind of delving into those waters. But generally, on paper, Wellbutrin, not something we want to take with methylene blue. Question here, it says, I take very high doses of melatonin for sleep sometimes. Strong opinions exist in both directions, but it works well for me, anywhere from 10 to 60 milligrams. Would this be an issue with methylene blue, as melatonin and serotonin are similar molecules? So it could potentially be. I've talked about this in other videos before, where melatonin is derived from serotonin, and it's kind of biochemical synthesis pathway, and it is a two-way street there, where melatonin can get converted back into serotonin. I had one patient many moons ago was on melatonin, or was on an SSRI medication. One of his family members had recommended he go on some melatonin, and that seemed to trigger serotonin syndrome, which is of course like quite disconcerting to hear about. Now, this patient also happened to have like some pretty significant mental health challenges, and so that individual, is maybe not the best example for sort of the average person out there. However, it is something still to pay attention to. That being said, I have had a number of patients now on methylene blue and melatonin. I've seen no problem whatsoever. So that being said, 60 milligrams of melatonin is a pretty darn high dose. Like, most of my patients will max out at 20 milligrams. Some rare exceptions to that. So 60 is quite a lot, so I really don't have any experience with that with my patients, but with my patients who are taking 20 milligrams of melatonin, I have not seen any problems with methylene blue being co-administered with that. And then the last interaction question here is, can I take methylene blue with Suboxone? So I'm not aware of there being any interactions between Suboxone and methylene blue. All right, so next question here. It says, I don't take any prescriptions. I take natural fish oil and liver supplements at night. I started taking the lowest dose of methylene blue. I get dizzy and I feel sick. on even 1 milligram. Am I detoxing? Is this normal? Even if I don't take any supplements or meds, why am I getting dizzy? Can I have that serotonin problem, I think alluding to serotonin syndrome, without taking meds that might be causing this? So thanks for the question. So, as touched on earlier, probably not possible to have serotonin syndrome without taking a serotonin-inducing medication. I mean, I suppose there might be somebody out there who's got some crazy genetic variants and they're just chock full of serotonin, and maybe they might run into something like that, but that would be, I think, a very unlikely scenario. A lot of patients, if they take a methylene blue prematurely, or if they take methylene blue at too high of a dose too quickly or prematurely, then they can potentially have detoxification symptoms. Now, 1 milligram is a very, very low dose of methylene blue, so that's not overly likely. There is also a condition called glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, or G6PD deficiency, and that is actually something that will cause folks to feel really unwell when they take methylene blue. It's quite a rare condition, but some people certainly do have it. There's certain populations around the world that are more likely to carry it within certain gene pools, but that is one reason that somebody could feel unwell from methylene blue as well. It's not always just a functional detox type thing. Now, there's another question along with a little backstory here that's interesting, where someone was flaring from low dose methylene blue, but then wound up working around that and now is feeling better at a higher dose. It's very well tolerated. So it's one of those things where if I had a patient who started on low dose methylene blue and it didn't really make sense that they might be detoxing from it, then I would be wondering, like, maybe they've got a G6PD deficiency, and I'd be perhaps looking into that. But in my practice, if patients came in to see me saying, like, oh, I'm taking methylene blue and I'm feeling really crummy from that, is that normal or is that good? It's like, well, it's not good. It's something telling me that the dose is too high, or maybe there's some reason that this is not the best supplement for you or best substance for you. And maybe we'd look at something like G6PD. All right, next one here. Oh, darn, there's one other interaction question here that I missed. I've really tried to be organized for this, but it doesn't always work out. So it says, I really want to try methylene blue. I take 2 hydrocodones a day, which is morphine, basically. Is it okay to take methylene blue while taking this tiny dose? And says holler, a piece from an old guy. So yeah, holler right back at you. So I'm not aware of there being any interactions between methylene blue and hydroxycodone or hydrocodone or any other codones. That being said, I mean, there's some interplay for sure between opiates and our neurotransmitters, but it's not something that's like a big serotonin driver. So I'm not aware of there being any issues there. Now, if I had a patient who was on high dosages of opiates, they probably have a lot going on that would make me think we need to do other things besides methylene blue. So that would maybe be a different playing field, but a low dose opiate, I wouldn't be particularly concerned if it was one of my patients and they wanted to try working with methylene blue. All right, so another comment here saying I had anxiety for about a month when starting methylene blue, came close to having a panic attack a few times, which really worried me as I haven't had any anxiety issues for over a decade. That, along with a Herxheimer reaction during that entire time, made it a bit of a rough start. I started off with just a few drops, and even that gave me quite a strong reaction, but very gradually I was able to increase the dose after being stuck at 4 drops of a 1% solution for weeks. I'm now up to 30 drops a day, and things are much improved. I'd be interested to know if anyone else had similar struggles when starting out. So yeah, so that's the other comment / question that I referred to. Obviously this patient just needed, this individual on YouTube that I don't know, who is not my patient, they started with a low dose, were stuck there for a while, then got up to like a pretty decent dose. I mean, 30 drops still isn't like a astronomically high dose, but it's a heck of a lot more than 4 drops that they were stuck on for weeks. So sometimes we just need to give our bodies more time to acclimatize to the methylene blue. But again, like I kind of alluded to this, but just to really say it outright, if I had a patient of mine who came in and they were, say, taking, 4 drops a day, that was fine, went up to 5 drops and felt worse, said, I went back down to 4 drops, but should I persevere and go to 5, 6, 7 drops and just keep going up even if I feel bad? I would say absolutely not. Stick with that 4 drops, and then when you're, maybe after a few days or a week or something, try 5 drops. Felt worse again, okay, back off to 4 drops. maybe a week or so later, try going up to 5 drops again and just gradually building up. Because yeah, one of the things that folks, kind of a trap that some folks fall into is thinking like, oh, I'm detoxing, therefore I just need to like persevere, I need to keep pushing through this. And that's just a really good way to feel crummy and sometimes create more problems in the short and medium and long term than it helps. So I'm a really big fan of folks not kind of muscling through detoxes and feeling crummy, because typically they already have symptoms going on, and life's too short to feel even worse. But even folks who are biohacking and things like that, it's like it's not supposed to be a feel worse before you feel better kind of supplement or kind of substance. I think that's all that I have cut and pasted here, so I am going to leave it there for now. Any other questions about methylene blue, please feel free to post in the comment section below, or questions about anything else, just post in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer as soon as I can.